In the sun-scorched heart of the Sabi Sands, where the dust rises like smoke from ancient wars and every thorn tells a tale, the body of a lion lay motionless beneath a lone marula tree. He was thin, his hips sunken, his mane faded by time and the weight of battle. Yet even in death, something lingered around him, an aura, a silence, a memory that refused to fade. He was called Sizanani. In the language of his ancestors, the name meant to help one another. But the winds of the Savanna whispered a different name now, the Phantom. Long before this final stillness, his paws had thundered across the open plains like the drumbeats of fate. He had ruled not just with fangs, but with fury, not with numbers, but with resilience. The humans who watched him, those who counted lions, not in trophies, but in tears, knew they had witnessed something rare. Not a king born into dominance, but one who carved a kingdom out of exile and loss. His end came not in a battle, nor with the roar of defiance, but quietly, as if the land itself had called him home. He did not fall where he reigned, but where all kings must return, to the soil. On that December morning, when the rangers found him near the guest lodge, the silence of the bush grew heavier. They did not speak, they only looked. A lion had died, yes, but a legend had entered the dust. Sizanani's tale did not begin with triumph. It began with blood, and it would climb through wounds and solitude to something greater than power, to meaning. Long before the name Sizanani haunted the dust, there were others who walked under the same sun, his blood, his curse. His father had roared across the same plains alongside his brother. They were known as Blondie and Dewey, two lions bold enough to take the great Nkuhuma pride, a formidable band of 9 lionesses who hunted buffalo with unnatural ease. For a time they thrived. The females bore their cubs, and the territory pulsed with life. But legends in Africa are always borrowed, and the true kings were coming. The Mapogos, a coalition of 6 brutal brothers, descended upon the pride like a storm forged from hunger and cruelty. They slaughtered Blondie. Dewey fled. Those lionesses who refused to bow were butchered, and some, in the frenzy of chaos, were devoured by their own kind. Order crumbled into carnage. Yet one lioness, stronger than fear, fiercer than fate, gathered 6 cubs and carried them into the rocks. She did not save all. 4 daughters and 2 sons. The daughters perished first, their bones left to the hyenas. The brothers remained, small ragged survivors in a world ruled by monsters. These cubs were not Mapogo blood, but fate offered them mercy cloaked in illusion. When the lionesses returned to the pride and the Mapogos returned for conquest, the brothers were hidden among a new litter. The Mapogos did not know, or perhaps they did not care. The cubs lived. The ghosts of Blondie and Dewey lingered in them, especially in the elder. Though young, he moved with a gaze sharpened by trauma. He watched, learned. The name Sizanani would come later, but already there was a quiet fire in him. He was a child of the fallen, a prince born not to inherit a kingdom, but to remember its ruin. His bloodline had failed. His mother had bled for him. His future would not be paved by prophecy, but by claws, silence, and shadow. If you're enjoying the story, hit the like button and leave a comment sharing what has impressed you the most so far. Your support helps this content reach more people who love wildlife. They were not yet kings nor warriors, just 2 adolescent lions walking the narrow line between survival and starvation. When the time came to leave the pride, they did so without glory. No territory awaited them, no allies, no brothers, just 2 lions, the elder silent and brooding, the younger limping from a wound in his flank that would not heal. Predators. Without land are whispers in the savannah, half heard, half feared. Other coalitions hunted them, chased them from watering holes. Scavengers tore through their kills before they could eat. Nights stretched cold. Hunger made them ghosts. It was then that the elder lion earned his name, Sizanani. To help one. Another. He refused to abandon his injured brother, hunting alone and bringing back meat. He stood over his brother through the long nights when hyenas howled nearby. He did not sleep until the wound began to close. This was not weakness. It was will. Where most lions would have let go, he endured. Together they crossed into the private lands near Kruger, a territory whispered about by rogues and exiles. And there, against all odds, they seized a pride. It was not a crown, it was a burden. The land was not peaceful. Rival males circled. Nomads tested their strength constantly. But with every challenge, Sizanani grew stronger. He did not roar with rage. He calculated. He ambushed. And as the seasons turned, his body grew into the frame of a true warrior. They didn't conquer one pride, they claimed 4. Each pride had strong lionesses, survivors in their own right, and Sizanani was not the reckless, ambitious lion of his youth. He knew when to retreat, when to strike. His partner, eager but disciplined, followed his every move. Together they ruled the central region of Sabi Sands like a pulse, steady and strong. Cubs were born. For the first time, Sizanani saw his own blood take its first breaths, cling to their mothers, rise on trembling legs. They were not children of chaos like he had been. They were born into order, into a world protected by experience and loss. And yet he did not become complacent. The past always followed him, even in moments of triumph. He still patrolled the edges himself, still slept with one ear turned to the wind. He knew the Savanna never stays quiet for long. Old enemies rise, new coalitions form. But now, Sizanani was no longer the lion who had to prove himself. He was the lion others spoke of in lowered voices. Say a survivor who had lost everything twice and still returned. In the heat waves rising over the golden plains, Sizanani did not look like a ghost anymore. He looked like a monument, flesh carved by time. A king not crowned but built. As seasons passed, Sizanani's territory expanded like a breath drawn in silence. The prides thrived, the cubs multiplied. 16 bore his blood, 16 heirs scattered across grasses, gullies, and groves. He had created not just a family, but a dynasty. The lionesses brought strength, his companion brought loyalty, and Sizanani, still sharp in tooth and muscle, brought memory. No decision he made was accidental. No border he allowed to exist was unwatched. He became a myth in motion, an echo of something larger than one life. But even the strongest suns begin to fall. A new coalition approached. The Birmingham males, ruthless, young, numbering more than Sizanani had ever faced. The same winds that once brought the Mapogos now carried their successors. And Sizanani, wise from all his scars, did not stand and wait to be overrun. He moved, not in panic, but in purpose. He and his companion gathered their prides and became nomads once more, evading the Birminghams through cunning and distance. The Savanna stretched wide before them, and though the throne was left behind, the spirit of the king remained intact. This time he was not fleeing. He was protecting something far greater than territory. He was protecting legacy. The hunt was his art, his ritual, his reason, but age is a weight no lion can outrun. On a December morning, Sizanani was found injured, his hip shattered from a failed buffalo chase. The wound mirrored his brother's old scar, but this time there would be no recovery. The strength that had defined him began to slip. His companion and lionesses brought him food, stood guard as his frame withered. He no longer hunted, he no longer roamed, and as the rains came soft upon the earth, his body, once a monument, began its quiet descent into the soil it once ruled. Sizanani died not with a roar, but with breath fading under a marula tree, just meters from the lodge, where men had once whispered his name with reverence. The rangers wept as they lifted his body, gaunt yet still regal, and buried him where only great lions are laid to rest. He had broken the curse of his bloodline, rewritten his fate through sacrifice, and forged a kingdom from exile. His body nourished the earth, but his story remained. In the wind, Some say that on certain nights when the grass moves without cause, a phantom walks still, and his name is remembered. Yet they were still young. The wound in the younger brother's ribs never truly vanished. Every hunt was a risk. Every day was borrowed. Sizanani knew this. He had not been raised in glory. He had grown under exile and screams. He did not trust peace. He trusted struggle. By fire he was forged, and by fire he would reign. The pride was small, but it was theirs. Sizanani and his brother ruled not with overwhelming power, but with persistence. They patrolled their narrow territory daily, responding to every distant roar, every scent of intruders with calculated vigilance. They had no legacy to inherit, only what they could build with tooth and claw. But Sizanani was no ordinary lion. He did not lead with brute aggression. He fought, yes, but more often he watched, he studied. His mind, sharpened by exile and loss, moved like a hunter's, patient, precise, merciless when needed. His brother, though loyal and brave, still carried the weakness in his side, a limp that never left him. But under Sizanani's protection, the wound did not become a death sentence. They hunted buffalo as if they were born to it. They adapted, crafted ambushes, took down prey larger and faster. Tourists who witnessed their hunts spoke of it as a performance, a choreography of instinct and strategy. In truth, it was survival transformed into art. The two lions became known in whispers. Not many dared to challenge them, and those who did rarely returned without injury. Sizanani had become the lion his father never lived to be, not a ruler, by blood but by grit. Yet in the bushveld, peace is always temporary. One dusk, the earth trembled again with the footfalls of fate. A familiar name returned, Matimba, a powerful coalition of males, known for their aggression and relentless campaigns to expand territory. They had crossed paths with Sizanani's bloodline before. Now they came again. There were battles, not one but many. The Matimba coalition outnumbered them, the air filled with the scent of blood and dust. For a time, Sizanani and his brother resisted, but the bush favors those who are many, and finally fate caught up. His brother fell. There was no great ceremony, no time to mourn. Sizanani stood alone as his brother's body cooled on the earth they had fought to defend. In that moment, he was no longer a lion of two hearts. He became something else, a shadow in the tall grass, a breath between roars, and the name Sizanani, meant for two, now belonged to one. After his brother's death, the Savanna changed. Or perhaps it was Sizanani who changed. The lion that once carried another now carried only silence. He did not roar. He vanished. Days passed, then weeks. Trackers found his prints only to lose them again. Rangers began calling him the Ghost. He would appear near waterholes under moonlight, then disappear before dawn. No lion held territory that way, alone, rootless. But Sizanani was no ordinary lion. He had become legend before he had claimed a kingdom. The Matimba coalition did not chase him. They believed they had won, and in a way they had. They took the land, the pride, the partner, but they had not destroyed the will that burned in Sizanani's chest. His retreat was not surrender. It was metamorphosis. Some said he went mad in those months. Others believed he was waiting, preparing, letting time sharpen him again. When he returned, he did so not as a challenger but as a storm. He found a small pride, vulnerable and leaderless, and claimed them. But something in him resisted attachment. He did not stay long. He left them behind, avoiding further confrontation. He was not ready, not yet. Then, silence again. Months passed. Rangers thought him dead. The pride he had left was taken by younger males. Sizanani had vanished from the land like a whisper blown away, but in September he returned, this time not alone. Beside him stood another lion, young, strong, unscarred. No one knew where this new companion came from, but his presence marked a new chapter. Sizanani had chosen not to walk alone anymore. He would teach this new brother everything: the hunt, the patience, the silence, the rage. They began hunting buffalo together, a terrifyingly effective pair. Sightings became more frequent. Tourists came just to see them hunt. Sizanani's legend grew, not as a lost soul, but as a king reborn. He had no blood left beside him, no father, no brother. But in the lion who now fought at his side, there was something familiar, loyalty. And in the roar they shared across the dry grasslands, the Matimba name no longer echoed in dominance. It trembled in fear. Sizanani's second reign did not begin with bloodshed. It began with balance. The lion who had once disappeared into shadows was now at the center of a growing domain. With his new companion, he claimed territory not by sheer destruction, but by outlasting. They hunted with elegance, buffalo falling. Beneath them, like giants toppled by precision. The savanna began to murmur again, not with fear but awe.